Hey everyone, welcome back to the Huddle, brought to you by Play USA. I am Nicole here with Cowboy of the Week,
Ian St. Clair.
and we are here to go over what happened in NFL Week 8, talk a little bit about NFL Week 9, and I am so glad that you're wearing a cool hat because it would have been really disappointing for you to go back to a baseball cap after what you wore last week.
I know it'd be a total letdown. And I haven't worn this hat in a minute. I used to cover the rodeo when I worked up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So I would cover Cheyenne Frontier Days, the daddy of them all, the largest outdoor rodeo in the world. So why not whip out the cowboy hat, especially since the Broncos are playing the Cowboys. So it's fitting.
What haven't you covered? You were a jack of all trades, an Ian of all trades.
There you go. I've even covered gymnastics. So
Really? I
yeah,
did not know that.
skiing,
That's cool.
a little bit of everything. So yeah, a jack of all Ians.
Gymnastics is hard because it's subjective, subjective
Very.
judging. So that's like, it's not as easy. I mean, a touchdown, well, you never know in the NFL, but for the most part, a touchdown's a touchdown unless they make a bad call. But, in gymnastics, is it a point? Is it a 1/10 mess up? Is it a 3/10 mess up? That's hard to report on.
And what made this difficult, this particular story I did, it was on girls. So it wasn't even like high school or college or the Olympians. It was
It
just
was little
girls. Yeah.
kids. Oh gosh.
So it was a feature, but yeah, I mean it was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. We hope you all had a great Halloween, and by all had a great Halloween, meaning that you heeded our advice and didn't pass out candy corn. I got
Or eat it.
or eat it. As expected, I got a lot of golf carts. I was very upset about it.
That's just ridiculous. And we didn't get literally anybody. We had like three trick-or-treaters the whole night.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I would say I definitely panic bought candy. I was the person that during the morning games, me and about, I would say like 20 to 30 other 30-year-old men were at the CVS trying to buy last minute candy. So much so that the workers at CVS had just moved all of their candy into a table in the front. And just like as soon as somebody walked in, they were like, this is what we've got, take it or leave it. So I overpaid for Sour Patch Kids and then ended up having, I would say we probably had like 100 trick-or-treaters, but I still had way too much candy.
Yeah, you had way more than we did. Like literally three people rang our doorbell, like three groups of people.
I had a full setup. I was in my Mad Hatter costume. I brought the TV outside. I had the Sunday night football game on, something for the parents, something for the kids. Um, and I will listen, as much as I detest the golf carts, and some of my family was like, well, what if their child had a broken leg? No, they didn't. Because what these kids did was they jumped off the golf cart, sprinted to my house to get candy, and sprinted back to the golf cart. So no broken legs. But I will give the parents credit because they decked these golf carts out. They had orange lights, purple lights, like smog machines. So it was kind of like a parade float almost, like a little parade going on in our neighborhood. But it was fun. A lot of Spider-Mans this year. Spider-Man's very popular. Unicorns, another very popular option this year for our neighborhood.
I'm surprised there weren't any He-Mans, but Spider-Man is definitely will always be a go-to because I remember as a kid, I went as Spider-Man. So
It's well, as long as they keep remaking it every 6 months, which I feel like that's the trajectory that they're on. I will say, I think we have too many houses in our neighborhood. Like we do have a pretty, Vegas is a pretty condensed, like the neighborhoods are pretty condensed. I had so many kids that by the time they got to my house, they didn't even want more candy because their bucket was so full. Like I was like, happy Halloween, trick or treat. And the mom's like, do you want candy? And the kid's like, I'm good.
I can't imagine being at that point. Can you imagine Cartman ever saying that
Right.
he has enough candy? No way.
come on, like just be a greedy kid for one day. And then by the end, I had so much extra candy. Like anyone that came to my house was just getting handfuls of everything that I had, and I still have half a bucket left. But it was fun. It was fun to see the kids back out trick-or-treating because it didn't happen last year. So hope everyone had a happy and safe Halloween.
Definitely.
All right, enough about candy and enough about the holiday. We'll jump right into the worst of the week. And for this one, it depends on who you were, because if you were sportsbooks, you had one of the best weeks you've had in probably a month. They've had bad weeks week over week over week, and this week was finally a good week for them. But if you were a bettor, it was definitely it was a pretty bad week for you. And you sent me a tweet from Bet Rivers that gave out their top 5 markets based on money coming in. The first one was Bucks -4, which did not hit. The second was Vikings -2.5, also did not hit. Third, Cardinals -6. You were a loser if you took that one. Packers +6, the only one of the 5 that cashed. And then Bucks money line, which also didn't hit. So if those were the top 5 betting markets this week, and bettors did not cash in.
No, and one game that we didn't even mention, the Cincinnati Bengals and New York Jets. I mean, what the I'll catch myself. What the heck?
The HE double hockey sticks happened in that game?
You have the Bengals, who the week prior go on the road and completely shellac Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
They look fantastic.
And then they go on the road to New York and lose to the Jets, quarterbacked by a guy named Mike White.
Okay, so this is very interesting because, Mike White couldn't be stopped. Threw for over 400 passing yards. Threw so much that his few interceptions didn't even matter in the game because he was just going off. And then ESPN comes out with an article that says that there's one random guy who puts $1,000 down on White to have the most passing yards in NFL Week 8 at 125-1 odds and scores 125K. So, I mean, good for you, guy, but I mean, you're the only person in the entire universe that made that bet.
Yeah, and if I was him, I wouldn't bet on sports again because you're not going to get that lucky.
Correct.
I joked with you.
That was your one time. Take it and leave it.
I joked with you before we started recording. Even his family wouldn't have made that bet.
Absolutely not. And another interesting tidbit, going back to that Bucks game, which obviously, everyone thought they were going to win, but our friends over at the Lines interviewed BetMGM, who basically said that they took 30% of their money that came in on the Bucks on live betting, which is a huge percentage for live betting, way more than they normally see. And the majority of it came in on that last drive when the Bucks were down by a field goal. Brady had, I think, a minute and 45 seconds to tie the game up, which in Brady land is the best case scenario. That's what he wants. And the Bucks actually moved to minus money. So that's the crazy thing too. For the live betting markets, Brady has done this so many times that while they're down 3 with under 2 minutes to go, they actually shift to minus money in the game.
I think that speaks to what the markets think of Tom Brady, mainly the operators, and the fact that people jumped on that. I wouldn't have, but I mean, I guess I think Brady has 50 fourth quarter comeback, fourth quarter or overtime comeback wins. So I totally get it. He's done it before.
I was going to say, that's juicy. I might have taken it there. I mean, if I'm going to have confidence in anyone to come back in under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, I mean, it's Tom Brady.
Yeah, especially since the guy over my left shoulder has now retired since he organeered the drive. So I would take him, but he's almost 60 now, so that's probably not going to happen. But Tom Brady is catching him.
He can play till 50. I mean, he said it in his interview with Gronk. So
yeah.
But in rare Tom Brady fashion, very, very rare, he does throw a pick 6. They lose the game. So another crushing defeat for bettors this week. So if you had the Bucks,
I will say I saw something about how someone was railing on Tom Brady for not making an effort to tackle the guy who picked him off. And I'm thinking to myself, the dude is 44. It's the end of the game. He knows he's going to score.
Yeah.
Why put himself at risk? He's not stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I don't consider it a must win game for the Bucks with how their record is right now, and you're not going to win many games if Brady's out. So just, it is what it is. I mean, it sucks, and it's like, again, very rare for him to throw a pick six in that scenario, but you don't sacrifice your health over that.
Exactly.
So yeah, sorry Brady, sorry to Bucks money line and Bucks point spread bettors. It was a bad week for you, but there's always next week.
Absolutely. You're gonna what you do is, the losses are coming. You don't let it affect you, and just keep plugging along unless you need to give yourself a break. I mean,
this is a nice responsible gambling plug. I like this. Don't chase your losses. Like, if that was your read and it was wrong, it's okay. Reset, do your research, and if you have it in your bankroll, come back and bet next week. And if you don't, take a break.
Exactly. Don't let it get you down. I think that's the biggest thing. When Peyton Manning was inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame on Sunday, and we probably won't touch on it, but I will say the after his Ring of Fame induction ceremony at halftime, the pass he completed to Brandon Stokely was the best pass completed by any quarterback in that stadium on Sunday. But as he always said, and as everyone will say, as cliche as it is, it's the same thing with sports betting. Don't get too high with the wins. Don't get too low with the losses. Always try to keep an even keel.
I love that, but I do have to give a little bit of a Peyton Manning humor. I don't know if you watched the Monday Night Football Manning cast.
Yes.
Did you watch the Josh Allen segment?
Of course.
Oh, heartbreaking. Peyton Manning, you're a quarterback. You're a Hall of Fame quarterback. And you're coaching your son's flag football team. You take it so seriously that he has 2 sets of plays on his wrist, like 37 plays, he says, that he runs on the flag football team. And your kid decides to put Jay Allen on the back of his jersey, and to be the only kid on the flag football team that doesn't put their own last name on the back of the jersey. Oh, poor Peyton.
I will say, I think everyone knows who Cooper Manning is at this point. I mean, that's just, he's a Manning, and he's going to be the next. I mean, anyone who's seen anything about Newman right now sees Arch Manning, who will be the third generation of quarterbacks in the NFL to have the Manning name. And then you're going to get Cooper at some point. I mean, this is just crazy.
Stop.
Manning, I mean, Peyton had the joke about, I won't say it here, but there is the joke about certain fees for the Manning genes.
Oh, yes. I mean, successful genes, we will say that. But that was just a funny little tidbit since we were on the topic of Peyton Manning. But obviously reinforce that responsible gambling message as well. But okay, do you have anything else before we get into our disastrous take it to Twitter?
I will just say that you mentioned the sports books having a great week and the bettors not. We also should mention the survivor pools, because there were a lot of people who got knocked down because of last weekend. So it wasn't just the bettors, it was the survivor pools at the various sports books that they do. Just a brutal weekend for anyone that's not a sports book.
Yeah, if you survived your survivor pool, I mean, you're loving life right now because half of your field is out. So
100%.
congrats to those that didn't pick those favorites and were able to skate by this week because you're competing against about half of who you were competing against last week.
And the thing is if you were in the survivor pool and you picked the Jets,
Oh,
kudos to you,
genius.
because that is a survivor, I will say.
Yeah, that's amazing. People probably thought you were absolutely insane going into the week, but you and Mike White proving them wrong. All right. We're going to get into Take It to Twitter. And we're going to really try not to go too far down the rabbit hole with this one because we know there are a lot of differing opinions. So we're just going to try to keep to the facts and talk about the betting markets. So Wednesday morning, it breaks on Twitter that Aaron Rodgers is in COVID protocols. They obviously are going to be going up against the Chiefs this weekend. When the lines came out, it was pretty much a pick 'em. I think some sports books had the Packers -1. Initially,
+1.
oh, +1, sorry. Initially, not a ton of movement on the lines because I believe a lot of people were under the assumption, based on some comments and actions, that Aaron Rodgers was vaccinated. And if you are vaccinated and you test positive, I believe the rule is you need 2 negative tests within a 24-hour period.
Correct.
And then you're cleared. So there was a chance that Rodgers was going to be fine and be able to play on Sunday. They're also getting Adams back this week. So didn't go crazy at first. Then it comes out that, contrary to popular belief, he is unvaccinated, which means not only will he miss this weekend's game, he will potentially miss next weekend's game, but he should be okay with his negative test next Saturday. This is when the markets go crazy. So we see books move Kansas City to -6.5. Then that doesn't stay. It goes all the way to -8.5, and things are now starting to settle at about -7.5 or -7 at most sports books, which means he's worth a touchdown.
And that's totally the case. We saw what Aaron Rodgers did on Thursday night against the Cardinals with you and me as receivers, and he was able to give the Cardinals their first loss of the season. So yeah, totally, he is worth a touchdown. I think you do that you take Matt Stafford off of the Rams, Tom Brady off of the Buccaneers. I would say Dak Prescott off of the Cowboys, but we just saw what Cooper Rush did in Minnesota. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely, Aaron Rodgers is worth a touchdown. And we won't get into the whole vaccination and the protocols that he may or may not have broken. But in terms of a betting market, I wouldn't touch this game. I actually had a parlay bet on spread and 2 money lines. And as soon as this Rodgers news broke, I cashed out immediately.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we've talked about this before, and sort of key players and how much they mean to the markets. And we've talked about when the whole Gruden scenario played out, how much does a very popular, successful-ish coach mean to the market? And we saw some books say that even if you took the most successful coach in the NFL, we're looking at maybe a 2 to 3 point shift, right? We're looking at maybe a field goal. But then you're getting these key impact players. You're getting, like you said, Rodgers or Brady, or sometimes like the star wide receiver, and seeing that they are actually worth a full touchdown to these books. So it's just an interesting way to kind of, see how quickly this news breaks on Twitter or ESPN or another form of social media, and how the books react to it.
What's interesting is you mentioned that John Gruden, that week, the Denver Broncos played the Las Vegas Raiders, and the spread at DraftKings opened at -3.5 for the Broncos. After that news, it jumped at most sports books to around -4.5. That was the closing spread when the game kicked off that Sunday afternoon. And we all know what happened. The Raiders, without a coach, still beat the Broncos 34-24.
Right. So you're not even getting a field goal there. You're getting, a minor shift. So it's definitely interesting. I agree with you. I do think that even with some of their players back off of the COVID reserve without Aaron Rodgers, I agree. I think he's worth a touchdown.
Oh, absolutely. I think it might go up higher than that because the Chiefs' defense, as we've touched on multiple times on this show, is
My bad.
complete garbage. And that's an insult to garbage, but they should be able to contain Jordan Love.
I mean, Jordan Love, who, no offense to him, but just has done absolutely nothing in the NFL. We have nothing to base this off of.
But maybe he could pull a Mike White. Who
That's what I was
knows?
gonna say. He can Mike White us all, and we, and like make us look dumb, and throw
Or
for
Cooper
400 yards.
Rush.
But I mean, Cooper Rush looked phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I mean, he looked like he was ready. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. Maybe it will be, and you'll have some random guy that put $1,000 down on him to obliterate the Chiefs, and they'll make a lot of money that I didn't make.
Yep, 100%. I won't touch it, but have fun with that.
Are we ready to get in our boat?
Let's get in the boat.
Let's take it to Fantasy Island. All right. So, on the topic of the Packers and Chiefs, Devontae Adams, okay, he's back. I think you downgrade him this week. I mean, if he was your wide receiver one, he has to get downgraded on your fantasy roster. You have no idea. You have no one throwing to him. We have no idea what Jordan Love's going to do. I don't see him going off this week. So it's time for a downgrade. My other little tidbit, you obviously, Titans fans are very upset. It is kind of a crushing blow. Derrick Henry is out indefinitely with a foot injury. He just had surgery. So making a case here, if it's on the waiver wire, pick up Jeremy McNichols or Adrian Peterson. I think a lot of people are going to be going Adrian Peterson's route. So I think Jeremy McNichols, if you can get him for a good value, might be a good pickup there.
And speaking of the Titans, I would be concerned about Ryan Tannehill. I think he could be in the bust category this week, which now means he's going to be a star because I'm bringing it up. But he's going against the Rams, who just traded for Von Miller. And now you have Aaron Donald and Von Miller coming after you. So are you going to double Aaron Donald and leave Von Miller one-on-one? Or are you going to double Von Miller and leave Aaron Donald one-on-one? Either way, doesn't bode well for Ryan Tannehill, who no longer has Derrick Henry. So if you have the chance, I would consider picking up the Rams defense. And we're getting into the crucial point for fantasy football where you want to win if you're in a position to win, because it's all about getting to the playoffs. That's where you make your money in fantasy football, is getting into the playoffs. So you want to do your best to search the waiver wire. We're in the middle, as everyone knows. The last couple of weeks have been bye weeks. The Buccaneers are on a bye week, so you're going to have to look for ways to replace Tom Brady. Hopefully you have a couple of quarterbacks that you can dive into. Receivers with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, that's going to be difficult. And then you mentioned Derrick Henry being out. That could be a crucial blow to some people. So I would lean towards Adrian Peterson, but as you said, there's avenues to go. I'm curious to see what the Titans look like now that they don't have Derrick Henry to give that cushion, so to speak, for Ryan Tannehill in that passing offense.
Yeah, it's a tough call for who you're going to pick up on the Titans if you're going to go that route. I mean, we know what Adrian Peterson can do. Obviously, he's a stud, but he hasn't played in 8 weeks, and we don't know what his conditioning is. So that's it's a
and
little
he's
tough.
old in terms of NFL
exactly.
running backs.
So he's only had, I think, less than a week, maybe a week of practice with the team. So it's a tough call for me on that one. I think either one is a smart move. I just think Peterson's probably going to demand a little bit more money than McNichols might.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. You got anything else?
Oh, that's it. I think we can get back in the boat.
We can get back in the boat and go throw a promo party. Let's take it to promo party. This one, I believe we did FanDuel last week, but they're really pumping out the new user promotions and they have another one. So we're going to give it to you. So we're listen, I'm not gonna go on the Packers Chiefs, but if you do want to bet on the Packers Chiefs, this is a good value. This is a good new user offer. So for FanDuel, they are offering you the chance to bet $5, win 150, 30 to 1 odds on either the Packers or the Chiefs to win the game. We have the graphics up here for you as well, so you can take a look. This promotion is going to run from November 2nd to the 7th, and that max bet is going to be $5. So here's what you have to do. If you're a new user to FanDuel, visit any of our sites. We've told you them before, but playusa.com, play10.com, indiana.com, playcolorado.com. You'll see it. There's links for FanDuel. Click on that join now link. You're going to make a first time deposit and then simply place your first real money wager on FanDuel Sportsbook on either the Chiefs or the Packers to win their matchup. If your bet wins, you will be paid within 72 hours. And again, this is a cash money promotion, so not a free bet promotion. We're not going to get into the spiel again, but you've heard these cash promotions are a great value. So if you're a new user at FanDuel, go ahead and sign up for this one.
I'll say it again. I think this ups the game for new user promos because it's not free bets or site credit. It's real cash money. So the other operators are going to have to start upping their game because FanDuel for 2 weeks in a row has done this. And there was one to open the season where it was a cash money where you placed a money line wager and won cash money. So they're really sticking with this, and I think it's going to force the other operators to up their game and match it instead of doing free bets or site credit. Not that I'll complain. I love free bets, but cash money is better.
And if we know one thing about sports bettors, it's that they're not loyal. And I'm not saying you should be, but they're going to go where the best offers are. So, yeah, if you are a new user to FanDuel, this is a no-brainer for me. I say, they're pumping these out almost every single week. So take advantage of them. You have one for a smaller sports book, but it's still a really, really cool deal.
It is. It's Betfred Sports. Betfred is live in Colorado and Iowa. It's also in Pennsylvania, but it's desktop only. There is no app in Pennsylvania. It's coming soon to Arizona. It has a retail sports book in Louisiana. So it's not in. Yeah, there's not a lot of states that it's in. It's not like DraftKings or FanDuel or BetMGM. But if you're in Iowa, Colorado, or have the desktop with Pennsylvania, this offer from Betfred is for new and existing bettors. All you have to do is bet on the first touchdown score. And if the player you bet on scores the first touchdown and then scores a second TD in that game, the sportsbook automatically doubles your odds. So cool. That's a really good offer. And then This is a no-brainer. On top of that, Betfred also has a super max boost for Thursday Night Football. A couple weeks ago, we mentioned the promos from Fox Bet on Thursday Night Football. Betfred does one too. The sports book picks an event that will likely happen, and bettors can place a max wager of $25 at plus 100 odds for it to happen. Now, the last couple of weeks, these are the markets that they've put up for this max super boost. Both the Cleveland Browns and Denver Broncos to throw a touchdown. And then last week, it was both the Green Bay Packers and Arizona Cardinals to get a rushing touchdown.
Okay, so yeah, and I like too that the max bet is $25 because normally we see with some of these boosts max bets like $5 or $10.
Yes.
So I like that they're up in the game there a little bit with a higher max bet if players want it.
So by the time you watch this, obviously the Thursday night game between the Colts and the Jets is over. But keep that in mind if you're in Colorado or Iowa or desktop only in Pennsylvania for the next Thursday night game, because they do these every week. And to my recollection, going back to the Rams Seahawks game, where it was both teams to score a touchdown, that was the market for that game. Every single one has hit. So
I was
that's
gonna
not,
say, yeah, they're not picking crazy markets based off of what you said.
no. So it's obviously fun. It adds a little bit a little bit of excitement to the Thursday night game, and you're not sweating too much. But just keep that in mind if you're in any of those states with Betfred Sports.
Yeah, that's a cool one. And I know Fox Bet isn't live a ton of places too, but I believe they're still running their Thursday night
Yes, they are.
offer as well. So take advantage, guys, because these are really cool because a lot of times we're talking about, new user, new user, new user. And we understand that obviously sportsbooks want new customers and they're going to give these really good deals to new users, but a lot of you probably aren't new users. And it's these boosts and these, recurring specials on Thursday night that are really sort of these retention offers that are great value for returning users that sometimes feel like they kind of get glossed over once they sign up for a sports book. So there are opportunities out there if you're not a new customer. I understand that they're not as frequent, but you just have to look for them and, keep clicking the promotions page of all those sports books that you join.
And I think that's one thing that sportsbooks need to start looking at is, yes, everyone wants to get new users. We're still in the infancy of sports betting in America, and all these states that have it, it's not even walking yet. We're still in the crawling stage, but they need to start looking at existing promotions, not just for new users. And I think that that's the next step for this industry and for sports betting is what can we do to get existing promos that may not be as juicy as the new user promos, but retention is huge, as you said. People want to keep the sports books want to keep users, they want to keep bettors in their apps. And the best way to do that is with promos, with free bets, with max super boosts. So we'll see what happens over the coming months, weeks. Well, I guess it would be weeks, months, years with existing betting promos.
Yeah, and I mean we've talked about this, and it's no secret again that sports bettors aren't loyal, and at this point in the market and how young it is, there's really no point to be because, like you said, if there's not going to be a lot of incentive to keep a player on an app, which I agree. I think we're at that really crucial point in some of these markets where we've got to stop focusing on acquisition. We've got to turn our, attention to retention. Because if I'm going to a state that I live in a state that just gets sports betting, it's in my best interest, in all honesty, to sign up for like one a week and use these new user offers until I can't sign up for one anymore. But at some point, the market's saturated and everyone 6 months in who's wanted to place a sports book bet, I mean, pretty much has. And now like you said, there's really nothing out there to keep somebody on a DraftKings or a FanDuel or a BetMGM until they have a reason to go back to that sports book. So I think we are going to start seeing a shift in some of these marketing and promotions eventually. I kind of think it should come a little bit quicker, but I do think, like you said, in the coming months or maybe year, we are going to start seeing a shift.
Yes, and it will be very interesting to see what they come up with because, I mean, the one problem with Colorado is not saturation, since we have 26 sports betting apps currently live, which is by far the most in the country.
It's the most insane thing I've ever heard. And you know what? If you have 26 sports betting apps on your phone, power to you, because
you might have a problem. But
I was gonna say I think maybe 5 is probably where I would max out at. But again, gamble responsibly. Let's hammer home that message. Gamble responsibly. Only take advantage of these promotions if it makes sense for your betting style and your betting bankroll. We're just trying to give you guys strategy and talk you through the process, not only from a betting perspective, but also an operator perspective. But obviously, if this doesn't make sense for you, we're not recommending that you go out and do it. But speaking of betting, it's time to get into our friendly competition of prop, lock, and drop it. Yeehaw. Yeah, we need to hide our faces because we both lost last week. I think I'm at 3-4 now. I was like, so yeah, it's manageable, but I'm not excited about it.
I joked that I was like 2 or 3-90. I mean, obviously it's not that bad. I think I'm 3-5, but yeah, I mean, last week I said I'm gonna sledgehammer the Chargers and Patriots to get over 1.5 fourth down conversions, and it was 1. I mean, Brandon Staley only goes for it once. Bill Belichick went for it once, and they were over. So, thanks.
I mean, at least yours had life. Mine didn't really have any life. Not with Derrick Henry getting injured, and yeah, I did. I think they needed to get him and Jonathan Taylor over 199.5 rushing yards, and I didn't come close. So you know what? We're gonna reset. We didn't chase the losses. We took some time, and we're back at it. So for mine this week, the Miami Dolphins are at home against the Texans, which is one of the weakest secondaries in the league. Devontae Parker has averaged 81 receiving yards per game in the last 2 games. So I'm going to take him over 57.5 receiving yards at -115 at DraftKings Sportsbook.
So thankfully I'm not going that game because it's so bad. I don't even want to look at it, but I was going back and forth. DraftKings obviously has their specials for the week, and I was looking at it and I wanted something easy that has likelihood, and I was going back and forth. So they have the Browns and the Bengals, Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon over 2.5 combined rushing touchdowns. The yes is currently plus 330. Or do I want to go something where the market isn't going to be as good, but it has a little more likelihood of happening? Vikings at Ravens, Lamar Jackson and Dalvin Cook over 154.5 combined rushing yards. That's yes -110. So do I go with the value of Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon to get over 2.5 combined rushing touchdowns, which would mean they have to get 3 combined rushing touchdowns? Or do I go with Lamar Jackson and Dalvin Cook over 154.5 combined rushing yards?
I'm doing the drum roll.
I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson and Dalvin Cook over 154.5 combined rushing yards, which now means Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb will get 3 touchdowns, and mine will come like 153.
They'll get 7. It's gonna be easy. Like they're gonna rush it in so many times. It's gonna be, insane. But all right, good luck to both of us. I want both of us to succeed. I want you all to succeed. So if you're betting this weekend, Good luck. If you are not, enjoy watching the games. And we will see you next Friday. Bye, everyone.